Hi, this is Trevor Conquergood. Welcome to this week's R&K Software Club's video for the week. And the topic for this week is about converting bitmap images into artwork shapes. And so I have loaded on my screen an image. It's like a JPEG image of a mountain. And so you'll notice that there's no artwork that's been created. The backdrop that I opened, just using the backdrop tool, is simply a JPEG that's made up, if you look really close, of like dots of colors. And so to create embroidery from something like this, you need to create stitches, but you can't create any stitches without artwork shapes. So there's several ways that you could convert this image into artwork shapes, and probably the fastest one and a popular one would be the magic wand tool. Basically, the magic wand tool works when you have a bitmap on your screen, like this JPEG image. When you turn on the magic wand, then when you mouse over top of the area of color and you click, it will auto trace it. And so notice that after I clicked here on the mountain, over on the right hand side in the sequence area, it's made a shape for that. And if I just pick up that magic wand again and click on the light blue swoosh and then the dark blue swoosh, it's created shapes for all of them. And now if I hide, this is the sort of show hide backdrop tool. If I turn it off, you can see the shapes that were created and you can turn it back on again. When I turn it off, I notice that although the shapes are there and they're probably good enough, when I say probably good enough, I mean they are a little bit kind of wiggly, and that really is a result of the fact that the image wasn't perfectly smooth, and when the software auto traces it, it's trying to sort of really follow the shape, and so it kind of creates a bit of a almost like a bit of a wavy line to it. And so one of the things I thought I would show you guys is how that can be, I guess, smoothed out, right? So if I click on this shape to select it, and then I go over into the shape tool, all of the points become available. Now you can smooth them. All you have to do is click and drag to select a number, only I probably don't want to smooth out the one at the point there. You see, if I right click right now and tell it to smooth all of these, it will kind of get a bit of a rounded edge to it. So let's hit undo. So what I'm saying is it's better to smooth the ones that don't need to be pointy. And so maybe sort of like starting from here and selecting just a little further over from here, and so I can select all the points in this area, but not the one at the point there. So now I have these points selected, and I can right click over top and tell it to smooth all of them. And see that? It just smoothed out my lines. And so essentially, if I kind of zoom out and move over, maybe out a little more and over a little more, I could probably draw a box that would select almost all of those points and right click and smooth them all out. Now, if you're just creating an embroidery design, and you click on auto satin on both of these, I'm not sure that the sort of small wiggliness of it would show, but it can a little bit. And you might notice sometimes what it does, although the edge still looks pretty smooth, it's the stitch directions that kind of got confused, because the software saw the contour and the shape, and it created like different stitch angles. If you select this shape and go to your shape tool, you can see that there's a lot of stitch angles and they kind of go back and forth. Well, when I smooth them out, it's not kind of as much of that kind of back and forth, if you will. And so the point is, when you have smoother lines, they simply create smoother embroidery. So why don't we select this shape, take it back to embroidery, click it on the artwork tool to take it back to just plain artwork, no stitches. Click on the shape tool and click and drag a box to select the majority of those points, and right click and tell it to smooth them. So in the case of the part up at the top here, I still have some of those sort of small wiggly lines, and in this case I don't really want to smooth them as much as I might even just want to remove them. If I had the point here and the point down at the corner, then maybe I don't need, all of the additional ones that are causing those sort of waves in the line. And so you can click on them to delete them and clean off the points. And so this is really just me fussing and saying, I want my lines to be perfectly straight. I don't know that you would really notice those sort of small wiggles if you were converting into stitches, but if you wanted to use this artwork to like cut a vector, make a file like an SVG and use your digital cutting machine to cut it, then it would be really important that those lines were very straight. And so I'm just showing you how you can still use something like a magic wand to auto trace something, but you may need to do a little smoothing afterwards. Now, the alternative to auto tracing would have been, and perhaps what we could do here is turn the image back on and then select this area and just delete it. So instead of auto tracing, I would use the artwork tool. And when you click on the artwork tool, it allows you to click to make a point, and then come down here and click, and then over here. And so it doesn't take long, to click around your shape. And what I'll say about that is, when you sort of create the points, you won't have any extra ones or unnecessary ones. I'll notice, I'm zoomed in right now 141%. If I get a little closer, you might be like, gee, Trevor's not very accurate with his points because I was too far out. And so I could use the backspace tool right now to kind of go like back, 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 and then maybe even 2 more times back and back. And so if you're zoomed in, and if you're wondering how I'm zooming, it's because I have a wheel on my mouse, so I can put my cursor here and get quite close to it and make my points more accurate. And then if I want to move my cursor out, or like zoom out, and then move my cursor down here and click again. But if you're not sure if you're being accurate, we'll zoom in. Oh yeah, no, I didn't quite get it. So hit backspace and then be more zoomed in when you draw your points to be highly accurate. So if it really matters exactly, it's a mountain for goodness sakes, and I think if I just go click, 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 I think we're fine. But if you really want to be exacting about things, then you need to get zoomed in a little bit closer. Essentially, I can just go all the way around the shape like this. When you get to the edge, you either zoom out to move over, or you can just use your nudge arrows to move over, unless of course you use what's known as auto panning. So I believe I have my auto panning turned on to notice, yeah, it moves for me. So if I bring it to the bottom, the design moves that way. If I bring it to the top, the design moves that way. And so that is an option that you may or may not really want. Some people, it kind of bothers them when that starts moving like that automatically, and so you can turn that off. I'm not sure. I believe the default when you first install the program is actually for it to be turned off, and it may be the opposite, that if you want to do the auto panning like I'm doing right now, you actually have to turn it on. So I guess the difference here is I can move around my design without needing to unzoom and then rezoom. I can stay zoomed in, and I just have to kind of make the screen move around to get to where I want to get to. And so I'm just kind of quickly going around the horn, I think, there. Now, this is where I started, and this is the last point I put in. I can put another point right beside the first point, but I don't need to, because if I just simply right click, that'll stop drawing, and if I hide the artwork, you'll see I actually left it open. There's no, I didn't make the final line of my shape. But if you select your shape, there's a tool right here called Close Shape. And so if I click to select the tool and click on Close Shape, notice that it adds the line that was missing. And so I guess it's not wrong to click there, but just know that if you clicked your last point, it still doesn't close the shape. It is still open. It just will have a very small opening. Either way, I don't think it matters. If you want to fill this in with thread, you just click on Fill. It doesn't care whether it's opened or closed. In other words, here, let's undo and then undo to go back. So see, my shape is open again. I can still fill it in with thread. In fact, filling it in with thread will also kind of close that line for you. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about converting images into shapes, and how you might need to smooth them out, And in some cases, you may need to draw them. Now, when you deal with the artwork, when you click on the pencil to draw artwork, notice that beside it, there is a tool called the line tool. And this is where you can select the mode or the way that you draw. So if I click on the tool, it actually opens up and shows me. Now, I have 5 tools here. You may only have 3, and it will depend on whether you have Total Quilter. If you have FTCU, then you will have the line tool, you will have the pen tool, and you will have the Bezier. But you won't have the arc tool or the curve tool. And if you own Total Quilter, then that's how you get the additional 2 drawing tools. But just to kind of quickly go through them, if I start with the first one, the line tool, I can click to make the points of my shape, and they'll be pointy. If I hold down the control key, then they'll curve for us. And if I stop holding down control, they'll go back to being pointy again. So control for curves, no control for straight lines. And it's right click to stop drawing. And that's how you use the line mode of drawing. There's also a pen mode. And when you choose pen mode, then you click and drag your mouse to draw. And if you let go with your mouse, you didn't stop drawing, you're just taking a rest, and you could click your mouse down again and draw some more. And you can keep doing the same procedure, click and drag to draw, and when you're done drawing your line, you right click to finish drawing the line. And so that is the pen mode. It's more of a freehand method of drawing your shapes, but either way, whether you draw them with the line tool or the freehand tool, they're simply shapes that you can select, to fill in with thread or outline with thread, however you see it. And so then when I click on artwork and I click again, now we have the Bezier tool. And Bezier is, it's popular for people that use this in maybe a graphics program. The idea is I'm going to click to make corner points, but to curve them, I will click and drag. And as I click and drag, it creates that curvature. And so when I create my next point, I can click and drag to affect the curvature of that point. And if I right click, I'll stop drawing. And so it isn't necessarily the easiest tool to learn, but if you're already really proficient with a Bezier tool, it may be your favorite one. The last 2, like I said, you won't have the drawing tools for the curve or the arc unless you own Total Quilter, but just since we're here, I'll go through them in case you do or don't have them. But arc works by clicking 3 points. So I'll click 1 point, then I'll click a second point, and it's not till I click the 3rd point that it curves. So now I can go back to second point, 3rd point, second point, 3rd point, and every time you do a series of 3 points, it makes a perfect curve between the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd points. And so second, 3rd, second, 3rd, and it's just another way of drawing curved lines, the curve tool. And actually, that's not the curve tool, that's the arc tool, the 3-point arc. And it's the last one is the curve tool. And curve is kind of like the opposite of line, because when you choose curve, all of your points will be curvy unless you hold down the control key, and then they'll be straight. And then back to curvy when you let go of control. So essentially, it's the exact opposite of using the line tool, where you get all straight points and only curve points when you click control. And so all of this to say, if you have a bitmap image, you may be able to use the magic wand to do the auto tracing. And if the lines are a little bit kind of wiggly, you can totally select them and make edits to the points. That said, sometimes you want to create shapes and you don't have a perfect clip art or a nice clean clip art. And if you're doing, the pencil tool, then it really doesn't matter how good your clip art or your artwork is, as long as you can see where you want to click to make your points, then that's how it works. And that's essentially everything that I wanted to share with you guys for this week's weekly video. So I hope you enjoyed learning about the different modes of drawing and about using the magic wand tool. And until next week, have a great day. Thanks for listening, and bye for now.